Uh, well, once again, just thought I would stream live so we can talk about some things and not consume my memory on my phone and have to bother to upload it later. It does it automatically, so I kind of like it. Other than that, I just got a call from. Well, I spent a long time on the phone today. Two friends I asked prayer for, Jacqueline and Rock. Rock is in Colorado. Jacqueline's here in Missouri, but she's having a hard time of just staying alive with the heat, with the cold situation, and evil people around her. And Rock's having a very difficult time too. He's had an extremely trying time. He's basically probably looks like he just came out of a concentration camp. He's about starved to death from lack of food and money. But he wants to get out of here. He has a lot of experience with growing things, a lot of capabilities, stored up a lot of things, bought a lot of things that a lot of prepper that other people wouldn't have done. So anyway, the people like that are here, people that are out there wanting to get here, and we're having a very difficult time. I'm having a very difficult time. So just ask for your prayers, and I want to get across the idea that I just got a call from a friend who just quit her job and wants to make a change and make a difference in the world and do something real. She quit her job because she's just sick and tired of the world and making money for people that don't need it and don't want to do anything for people. Don't have any vision of doing anything for people ever. Just don't even know what to do with all the money they make and the hundreds of thousands of dollars they make. So anyway, I just thought I would get on here and we'll talk about that or whatever. If somebody has a question. There's Howell County again, George Washington. Hi. um, yeah, Howell County. I was wondering what the sheriff was like there these days. Seems like it was a very corrupt department a few years back. Friends of ours got totally lost their business and everything because of the corrupt police there, the Dixon family. Anyway, yeah, just because I recommend people moving to the Ozark, but you got to be careful where you move to, what county you move to, because Ozark County, for example, is quote unquote catch and release. There's a lot of meth going on there. The law enforcement arrests someone, book them, get their money from the feds, turn them loose. Revolving door policy, not good for the people living there because they're the ones that have all their metal stuff stolen. If you want to go see if a place is good, go to the main town in the area and see if you can go in and buy gas without going in and prepaying. If you can walk up, fill your car, and then go in and pay, that's a pretty good area. Avon, Missouri is like that. Stockton is like that. So there's some counties that are better than others. I'll put it that way. There's some that you don't want to live in any way, shape, or form or case. Around Festus, Farmington, Missouri, they're in the Ozark Plateau, but not good areas. Potosi, very bad. It's one in the bad county. Even rich people there are very selfish and snobbish. Very sad. Very, very sad. We're supposed to be taking care of our brethren, not make their life as difficult as possible. So the question is, how can we make a change in this world? And I got to go back to where it all started. And I told this friend earlier. I said, well, to me, it means going back to the beginning. Like in the Princess Bride, the Spaniard, Inigo Montoya, when they got separated from, he said, Vizzini said, if we get separated, go back to the beginning. So he goes back to where they first met. Well, for me, the beginning would have been, when I got saved, yes, in 1973. But the other one of the main dividing points of my life was when I had the vision in the year 1980. I mean, the year 2000, sorry. The year 2000, I had this vision of a young couple coming through the woods. There's an underground house built, and the message in the vision was the house was built for whoever found it first. And it just tore me up because I knew in the vision that there were like many, many of these homes out there. We were building these homes ahead of time. Well, how that happened, I don't know. That was what I felt, and I cried for like an hour. It was so beautiful, such an overwhelming sense of the beauty of heaven and pure love. I couldn't even talk for like an hour. It was at least an hour. I just sobbed, just gut wrenching, chest heaving sobs. My wife was there in bed with me, and she's like, "What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong?" I probably said thousand times. She goes, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" I couldn't talk. I couldn't tell her. I don't remember that I ever did sit down and say, "Okay, I had this really bizarre vision," and it's a life changer because it went from that to go back to sleep, and then I went on to a craft show with my son, And I just was taking notes the whole weekend and seeing things happen the whole weekend. Just miraculous things happen, just one right after the other. So, that was the beginning of what I consider my ministry. That vision became notes on a scratch paper. That became spoken onto a micro cassette recorder. That became typed onto a 3.5-inch floppy disk. If you remember the little 3.5-inch, not the 5-inch, but the 3.5-inch ones, floppy disk, and then that became, my book, website and book. So that's what it all started with. So that's, I need to go back to that and, okay, how does that happen? How did that home get built? For years, I thought that we would be mass producing. We'd have teams of people out there just building these homes one after the other. That's not necessarily the case. That was an assumption on my part. So for 20 years, I've tried to figure out how to build those homes, be able to build a whole bunch of homes. Several days ago, I had the idea, and I said this in one of my earlier telecasts, live streams, whatever it was, that it may have been that, and I'm leaning more towards it was just one at a time. Someone comes in, they build an underground home, and then they build some kind of shelter, and then the more friends come in, family comes in, so they build another one. And that first one is empty. Well, they leave some food there, they leave some firewood there, they leave some pots and pans there, whatever they can afford to leave, and move on to the next place. And they build another one, a bigger one, and they build a bigger one. So that could be what I was seeing. I don't know. That's definitely a thought in my mind that could have caused, let's say 1 million people come in and they build a home, and a few months later they build another home. Well, there's 2 million new homes. So there could be that many people coming in here. I believe that, and it could happen just as a grassroots movement. I've come to think that probably over the years, it's probably going to be more of a grassroots effort anyway. Just common people, not going to be a huge multi-million-dollar, you know, campaign of rich people making this happen, because the rich people are by and large greedy and selfish. I know one, and definitely very selfish. Greedy, not necessarily greedy, but very giving, but in the sense, just I'm better than you, haughty, arrogant, very high-minded, high-minded. And James says, don't be having don't have men in admiration because of their advantage. Don't think by nobility or by money or by inheritance or anything. Don't have them an advantage over you. So anyway, okay, well, I'm going to check the chat, see if anybody's signed in other than George Washington and Kenneth. Hi, Kenneth. How you doing? West Plains, Missouri, same way. I'm assuming corrupt. Yeah. Few people over there. The guy that started the OzArk Set Apart Facebook group. TR Outrider. He was a biker, and he came here from Illinois. I came here through my encouragement. He got in touch with me on my YouTube channel and decided to move here. So he was able to transfer some of his money, and he was able to get a job here. He was able to buy a place. So he's over there somewhere between Kabul and West Plains. I think he lives near Kabul and works in West Plains. So that's pretty cool. He has internet capability. He's a webmaster type of guy, so he's able to make enough money to make a living. So that's one thing people don't understand. That I'm gonna be off grid. I'm gonna buy 5 acres and be off grid. Well, 5 acres is not very much land to start with. And two, how are you gonna make money while you're living off grid? How are you gonna have enough money to do and you just live on a shoestring budget? And that's what I believe people are gonna do, more or less. More and more people do this on a shoestring budget. One lady, hello out there if you are out there, Jilly, what's her homestead? Jillian Carey on. Oh, come on. But anyway, she said they're doing it. They're doing on a Belly Acres, Belly, like Big Belly Acres, but Belly Acres. Jillian Carey, and they're doing it on a broken shoestring budget. I love that, because I was positive. I wrote in my book that I wanted to figure out how to do this on a shoestring budget. I thought I used that term, but I didn't. I couldn't find it the other day. I was looking at it, went back to reread my book, and I need to do that. Just go back and reread my book online. That's one thing I could start doing on here. Is just covering that. Read it online, read it out here, like I did with Lights Out. Hey, Ray out there, how you doing? In Chauvelin, Candace is doing good. A good deal. So if anybody has any questions or topics, throw them out there. Otherwise, I'm probably going to just be on for maybe an hour again, not too long. Like I said, I had a phone call. I was going to sign in a little earlier, but this friend called and told me she just quit her job and was going to wanted to do something real. So we said, well, let's take a first step. Let's do something. First step is let's do something. Okay, let's do that. So she did phone calls, sales soliciting, and the guy she's doing it for is making so much money. He was just okay, just hourly. I think it was. I don't know how, or if they got an appointment, she got a commission. But she knows that he's making tons of money selling something to doctors or whatever it is. I don't know. Anyway, some highfalutin, high dollar operation. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. Just be aware of there's people out there with great needs, really desperate situations. Jackie and Rock are two of the main ones, and April too. They said we're going to go camping in the Ozarks and not coming back. Not going back to the city. So they moved from Rapid. I think it was Rapid City, South Dakota. I'm not positive, but I think that they came from South Dakota. And just talking about how weird it was getting there with black boxes on the light posts, and you could hear the voice from the box inside your house saying, "Get back in your house. Return to your house. Citizen, get back in your house." Kind of a practice thing, but her daughter in the bedroom comes out to the dad and goes like, "Dad, did you hear that voice? It was right in my bedroom." So very bizarre stuff. Anyway, they drove within 15 minutes of me here and thought about coming to visit for a night or two. And I wish they would have. They would have known how nice it was here compared to where they ended up, because where they ended up is not good. It's only 400 feet altitude, number one. Doniphan, Missouri area, and a bunch of meth dealers and crooks and criminals and perverts and nutcases there all around them. So not good. So I don't know. They're in a pretty bad situation. I think I don't. He signed on one night. Johnny Doom was in on one of the live streams one night and said hi. So that's about all I got out of him. I don't hear from him. I used to talk to April on a regular basis when they were moving, and for a while after that. But now it's been about 3 weeks, maybe a month in between times when she actually says, "Hey, I'm still alive." So I don't know. It's very difficult for them. Very difficult for Jackie. She's surrounded by meth cookers, satanic people. And Rock's having a difficult time out in Colorado, wanting to get out here with his belongings and, investments and stuff. So it's very hard. I'm hoping that this year is going to be different for me, for a lot of people. It is a Shemitah year as far as I know. If you're not familiar with that concept, look it up. It's a biblical law. Every 7 years is Shemitah. It's letting go. Well, 2015, okay, the year 2001, 2008 was another collapse. That was 7 years. And if the nation doesn't repent, then God removes his protection. 2015, there was somewhat of a collapse. So 2022 is 7 years again. And we've already seen the crypto going down. That's what this friend Rock was complaining, that crypto is crashing. He thought he was going to come out with, just a few short weeks ago, he told me he was going to come out with enough money to buy some land out here. Well, no, he's just lost everything on that, so it's all gone. So far, it may come back up, but who knows? We'll see. You got other people that have invested in crypto too. I mean, there's one brother that's been on here, Reek. Hi, Reek, if you're out there. Um, yeah, so he's been invested in crypto for a long time and figured come out with hundreds of thousands of dollars. I sounded like so. And if he did, he's going to come up here and visit me and help me out. So that's really cool. I'm hoping it does do that, but I don't know. From what Rock is saying, from what I'm reading and hearing, is it ain't good for crypto right now. So that's just another way to scam people and wasting the, taking their life savings and capability. I don't know. And maybe this guy got out, but I haven't heard from him. So maybe Reed got out. I don't know. Anyway, we'll see. 7 people on. Wow. Holler if you guys have anything to say. All you out there that might be listening and streaming in. Yeah, Ken out there in Lake of the Ozark. Yep, yep. West Plains, I guess you're saying, George, that it's the same way as crooked cops and whatnot. That's not good. I hate to hear that. I'll tell you what. The thing is that I believe forever, this is true. What happens in this country is going to depend to a large degree on the sheriff department, because the sheriff is the most powerful elected position in the country. The sheriff in his county is more powerful than the president of the United States. Fully automatic weapons. He can do whatever he needs to do, and his powers are statewide also. There was a race in Colorado when I was there. I think the guy's name was Marv Miller, if I'm not mistaken. And there was a good sheriff that was in there, and he got set up on some stupid family and domestic dispute. So he was out. And so the guy Marv Miller was, I don't know what he did, but can't quite remember. But anyway, somebody asked a question at a meeting. They said, "What would you do if there's a Waco type situation in your county?" And he knew the feds were coming for him. And he's very vehemently or adamantly said, he said they would not cross the state line. People were like, "What are you talking about? Not cross the state line?" He says, "A sheriff's powers are statewide." He said, "If I had to issue weapons to everybody, every man in my county, we would meet them at the state line. They would not cross the state line." So that was a pretty intense answer, very bold answer. That's why he didn't become sheriff, because Jefferson County is a really weird county in Colorado. It encompasses almost the entire length of the city of Denver as a barrier between Denver and the mountains. And I could see that whenever they set up the counties, they figured, well, this one's going to be the one to keep everybody in Denver. So we got to have this has got to be controlled by one person. So that's very weird, very strange thing that I saw there. So anyway, so just kind of my thoughts on things tonight. A little bit of fellowship, touch base with y'all. Zapton Kaboom, Kuboom, Kuboom. Hello, everyone. Everybody say hi to Zapton Kaboom. Where are you at, Zapton Kaboom? I asked you before. I don't know. So, thing flashed on my screen for a video of Joel Salatin. Boy, if you're not familiar with Joel Salatin, look him up. He's one of the most phenomenal, back to earth, homegrown people in the world. Very powerful. He has like hundreds of chickens, and he's got raises hogs and cattle and goats and chickens and ducks and geese and everything. And the thing it is, with where so many neighbors are making maybe $500 on per acre of their farm, he's making $6,000 because he runs goats through an area, and then he runs cattle through, then he runs turkeys through, and then he runs chickens through, and he's got like hundreds of chickens. I mean, his chicken coop is like this. It takes a big tractor, like a 100-horse tractor, to pull his chicken coop around because it's huge. Probably a big, gigantic tandem axle thing. So he opens that door, and there's like hundreds of chickens pouring out of that thing. And they get eggs from them, too. They have it built so they can get eggs. The chickens go in there and lay their eggs, and they come out, and they move it during the night or early in the morning before they let them out. So you can't move chickens during the day. They won't know where to go back to. So they got to know where they go back to. So they got to know where home is. So when they let out, they know where they go back to go back into the coop. In other words, you can't let them out and then move the coop. You got to move it either right before you let them out or at night. Right after they go in. Anyway, some things. Sorry about that. I'm just kind of meandering, talking, and nobody's really asking any questions. So, but the whole thing of the vision that I had, that's where I need to go back to start over. Because nothing's going to happen. This our friend Sherry asked what's going to make the difference, and I said, well, I don't know. To me, if we don't start working together and start actually practicing Christianity, we're not going to make it. Nobody's going to make it. I think we'll all be killed. I always felt that would be a lot easier to get that to happen, but I don't see it happening, and I don't know how it's going to happen. In other words, people that have money to donate money to let's look at how much money they raise for churches in Africa, and then they don't build them anyway. They just go build a casino in Las Vegas or something with the money and make the money from the casino to pay for another church in Africa. Whatever, I'm just saying that there's a lot of corrupt stuff going on out there. So how do we see actual what I saw in my vision happen. People that care about other people now built another house. Now that this home, they're just gonna give it away. How does that happen if we don't love each other? It doesn't. It never will. But what I'm saying is that we need to have help here. Rock needs help. Jackie needs help. I need help. And unless people are just actually okay, I have axe. They sold their land in the country and laid the money at the apostles' feet. We're about to that point in time, people, where we actually have to have them do it. If we don't start helping each other, people are going to die. I mean, Jackie, I'm amazed that he's still alive personally, because she's trying to get by without any. She has a kerosene heater, but the meth heads put water in it. One time they put gasoline in her kerosene oil. Well, that can start a fire pretty quick. Dilute it so it can't. If the water is in it, it won't even work because the mixed in with the stuff and it won't burn right. Anyway, some bad things going on. And without help, some people aren't going to make it. And eventually, I don't think anybody's going to make it. Unless we start helping each other. So, unless we start helping, whether it's just a little bit nicer, I'm going to start digging. I'm going to start building an underground house. I got bushcrafting and homesteading type things where they go out and build a little house in the forest. I'm going to go do that. I mean, I love doing it anyway, so make that happen. At least I'll have one little shed, one little shelter somewhere out there that is a place to live if something bad goes down. So, or bury a trailer. Whatever. So I'm gonna probably not be on here too much longer because my just don't. Okay, what do we got here? Come on, fade. Making plans for. Get out of the way. The fallout. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, people are getting more serious. Why does it keep doing that? Okay, Jay Black, how you doing? Jay Black says this: smoke from the pit like a great furnace. It consumes the whole earth with darkness. Yeah, the pit being hell, the pit of hell. And just so you know, Jay Black, I'm going to call you Joe Black. I don't know if everybody's ever seen the movie or heard about it. Meet Joe Black. That's an interesting movie, almost 3 hours long, but I'm going to try to watch that. Yeah, it's good info about that farmer livestocker. I'm not sure what I said or you said, or whatever. Farmer livestocker. Yeah, smoke from the pit. Talk about that. That what is that volcano that went off? Tango, Django, Mingo, Dingo. Come on. Yeah, a volcano that they think might have been caused by a missile or an nuke or something, possibly. But I know it's Geo, Tango, NGO, whatever that volcano they went off. Anyway, that could affect the weather around. Yeah, I think more people being staying at home. That's one reason why I'm doing this too, is because kind of have fellowship, with everybody. Everybody that signs in, we can talk a little bit, encourage each other, discuss ideas, plans, and stuff. So that's why I wanted to focus on. I'm not going to do it a lot tonight, but just with the idea that I need to get back to what started the whole concept of how to get out of Babylon for me, and that was this vision that I had, and that involved an underground home and a place for people to live. The couple that I saw were refugees. I knew that in my vision. They were refugees that didn't get out in time. They basically had the shirt on their back, and that was it. The shoes on their feet and the shirt on their back. and their two children. That's all they had, and yet there was a home for them to live in, and that is so touching, so beautiful. I mean, I don't know if I can describe to you the beauty of it. That just so moved me that I couldn't even talk for like an hour, at least an hour. I just cried for an hour solid. So how can that happen? Basically, what we want to do is I want to bring heaven down to earth. I want to bring the unselfishness and the love and the beauty of heaven down to earth. And to do that, we need to, we need to be unselfish. We cannot. We'll never see this happen with everybody saying, "This is my stuff, and I'm not going to trade it. I'm not gonna give it up, and I'll shoot you if you try to take my stuff." So rather be willing to come out and help and share and build. So I don't know. That's about it. I'm not gonna go on too much longer here because nobody's asking any question or anything. So there you go. Another one. Micah Allen says, remember that when a person has the spirit of prophecy, he sees things a generation or so. Oh, thanks for that one. We got that one right. It fades right as I'm reading it, so let me try to read the whole thing. Michael Allen says, remember that when a person has this one by 2004. I kind of did, I wrote it in the book. That kind of a good timeline. I liked it, We are not free, 2004, God shuts the door. Okay, Michael Allen goes on to say, John the Baptist and Jesus predicted Jerusalem's destruction 40 years before it occurred. The Jerusalem church began to preach the end of their era. It took a long time, yep. Unfortunately, persecution is often the deciding motivator for people to order their lives correctly, make their own moves, get out of town, settle elsewhere. Yeah, that's very true. Absolutely. Michael, well, I've felt this for 20 years, since we live in Kansas, that when judgment happened, people would start listening to truth. And it may be that, judgment really has to hit, because judgment begins in the house of God. Well, why is that? That doesn't mean death begins in the house of God. It just means judgment, oppression, whatever, begins in the house of God. And they'll go, oh, man, we need to start living right. We need to get out of town. We need to sell our property in the city. Because my contention has been for years that, this is what I saw and wrote in my book, I think, is that in the book of Acts, these people had land out in the country, and they sold the land out in the country. Why? Because they had such a huge influx of people in the city of Jerusalem that needed to take care of 3,000 new souls, right? They needed housing, they needed shelter, they needed medical, they needed, supplies, they needed food. So they sold their land in the country and laid the money at the apostles' feet, and the apostles set it up as a fund to take care of widows and orphans and stuff like that. And they took care of people, they helped them out. Well, now to me it's the opposite. People need to sell their land in the city, their properties in the city, and get out into the country, because it's in the wilderness that we're going to be able to survive. This isn't a massive influx of souls getting saved, but rather it'd be a massive influx of people needing just to stay alive. And I believe that primarily the people that will be preserved through this whole thing will be people who are believers. Selfishness is going to kill itself, is what I say. Selfishness is suicide. If you're selfish, if you're going to us for no more, shoot first, ask questions later, that type of mentality, you're going to die. And if you don't die physically, you'll die spiritually. You'll be dead spiritually. Because if you shoot first, you commit murder. You've committed murder, and you're not going to get into heaven. You're damned forever. So committing murder is not biblical. It's wrong. Okay. I'm not saying self-defense. I'm just saying there's people I know they're believers, Christians, quote unquote, yet they're chomping. They can't wait to kill somebody. So that's not a believer. They're not going to end up being in heaven. I don't think. I think they're going to be dead spiritually, even if they stay alive. If they're survivalists and they stay alive through the whole thing physically, for a very stupid thing, bit of food or something. So, all right, Joe Black. What else you got to say there? Are you the one that quoted that the other day? I hope so. Nehemiah chapter 4. He goes at, look, everybody read Nehemiah chapter, powerful passage about being separated on the walls, and we need to get together. And when When you hear, therefore, the sound of the shofar, resort ye hither to us, and the Lord our God will fight for us. That's chapter 4, verse 20. Very powerful verse. Very powerful passage. We need labor with a sword in one hand and a trowel in the other. So if we're digging an underground home, or building a cob oven, or building a cob house, we'll be doing it with a sword in one hand and a trowel in the other. Well, I'm gonna look it up. I'm thinking that's probably going to happen, And it's not just judgment, but literal persecution. And a lot of people are so afraid of that. And they're like, I don't want to be persecuted. I don't want to be persecuted. Well, bring it on, Samuel Rutherford was on his deathbed when he received a summons before the high court and high jury to appear before the king. And his reply was, and he wanted it. He was looking forward to being a martyr, but he was sick and he was dying. And he wrote back and said, "I'm sorry, I have a higher summons from a higher court and a higher jury, and I will soon be where few kings and noblemen ever appear." So, apostles on you guys. Sorry about that. Make it. I'm not going to make your invitation. So, such is life. Okay. I'll flip the camera around and you can read with me here. Unplug it. Where is it? Okay. I got to figure out which end of the which end of the stove the phone, the camera is in. I'll pick up verse 6. So we rebuilt the wall, completing it halfway up because the people were committed to the working. I'm trying to read it off the tablet, not my phone, so try to get that square up. So they had opposition. Sanballat reacts to the progress, and Sanballat was Tobiah, the Arabs, the Ammonites, Ashdodites, etc. They flew into a rage. They all conspired together to invade and fight against Jerusalem, creating confusion there. So we prayed to our God. We also set up guards. Day and night because of them. Meanwhile, the people of Judah said, the builders are tired and there's so much rubble that we can't reconstruct the wall. Our enemy said, before they notice or see us, we'll penetrate their midst to kill them and stop the work. The Jews who lived near them kept coming to us, reporting at least 10 times. They'll attack us from every direction. So I stationed the people by families behind the wall in the lower exposed areas, equipping them with swords, spears, and bows. Looking things over, I stood. This is definitely not the King James, eh? ISV. I didn't want King James. King James Light. There we go. You can actually read it. Verse 14 is cool. I looked and rose up and said unto the nobles and to the rulers and to the rest of the people, be not ye afraid of them. Remember the Lord, which is great and terrible, and fight for your brethren, for your sons and your daughters, and your wives and your houses. Fight for your sons, your daughters, your wives, and your houses. Yeah. Very important. We live here. It came to pass when enemies heard that it was known unto us, and God had brought their counsel to naught, that we returned all of us to the wall, every one unto his work. It came to pass from that time forth that half of my servants wrought in the work, and the other half of them held both the spears, the shields, the bows, and the habergeons. The rulers were behind all the house of Judah. 17. They which builded on the wall, and they which bear burdens, those that laid it, every one of them, one of his hands wrought in the work, and with the other hand held a weapon. So he had a sword in one hand and a trowel in the other. Mason's trowel. That's the Spurgeon's newspaper for many years was The Sword and the Trowel. Very powerful publication. For the builders, everyone had his sword girded by his side and also builded. He that sounded the trumpet was by me. And I said to the nobles and the rulers and to the rest of the people, the work is great and large, and we are separated upon the wall, one far from the other. In what place, therefore, you hear the sound of the trumpet, the shofar, resort ye hither unto us, our God shall fight for us. So he labored in the work. Half of them held the spears from the rising of the morning till the stars appeared. Very, very good passage, and thank you for reminding us of that, Joe Black. Sorry. Rotate device. Rotate screen. There we are. And back to Michael's comment. The imminent destruction of the old temple and states that he and his companions had fled in order to seek refuge. Okay. Is that kind of assumed, or I don't really remember that chapter and verse? If you got that, holler. I'll look it up later. Ray Sova. It is being said that Tonga, I see, as that was NGA, Tonga, Tinga, Tonga. Yeah. Yeah, nuke. Due to the high rise of dust cloud that went higher than that of the natural volcano. Well, I don't know. Most volcanoes can go up 20,000 feet, but that's about what it did. I'm not sure that it had any higher level. But I'm not. Now, one guy had a Mark Allison 88 had a video on it where he shows. I'm just guessing a few hundred within maybe 20 miles, but there's a streak of energy, a light or a missile or something that came from the northeast. If everything was normal, orientation, that's from the northeast, a streak of light came and hit it, and then it just exploded. Oh my gosh, it went up big time. But I didn't see any evidence of a nuclear explosion. It might have been a tactical nuke, something, and it could have been underground, like a submarine torpedo, a nuclear torpedo, because it could have hit underground. You never would have seen the typical nuclear mushroom cloud, but it certainly did go up big enough to be a nuke. I don't know. I'm not saying it wasn't. I'm not saying it was. I don't believe either way, but it's possible. I wouldn't put anything against them. Fawn Schneider. I would love to come out of Babylon and do community with like-minded people. It's hard because my husband has different ideas and prefers to live the lone wolf lifestyle. Oh boy, yeah. Oh, I don't know what to say to that. I just watched a video today that talked about that. A guy warning, something like a warning against about Christian communities, and he had a good point. You do need to be careful. You need to be wise. Be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. I will say this: the lone wolf idea dead, flat out. Even if you're Johnny Rambo, you ain't gonna make it, because you just can't do that. By and large, I'm saying by and large that's the case. People that come out here, people that have that idea, people that come out here, I'm Superman, I can do anything. And you find out pretty damn quick you can't, because you're either going to get hurt really bad, or you're going to run yourself into the ground, or you're going to kill yourself. And, my son used to think that, PJ used to think that, Bill used to think that. They're all Supermen. No, they're not. Nobody's Superman. And nobody can do it by themselves. It's going to take a communal effort. So, I'm not about to have a lone wolf type of guy on the outskirts of the community. That's fine. But if he wants to be that way, that's okay. Yeah, I can deal with that. You got to have something that's tough and hard. Your border people are. Jesus said in the parable, he talked about the wedding invitation. He ended up sending wedding invitations out to the highways and byways, and the highways are like, the hedges and highways. Okay, the hedges are like border people. Rough, thorny, hard. Adamantine. The word diamond is hard, right? Look up the word in Hebrew. It is amazing. It is the word. It is what I am. It's what I'm doing. It describes my ministry, my family motto, everything. It's being circumspect. Building a watch building a wall, being a watchman, and being circumspect. Circumspect means to look in a circle, to be watched in a circle. I mean, it describes what I'm doing. So I very much have the idea of a border control, protection. So your tougher people need to be out on the borders. And that's basically your Scots-Irish. Is your husband Scots-Irish there? Fawn? Is your husband Scotch-Irish or Cherokee? That would explain it, yeah. That's just a majestic, beautiful, eerie, mysterious thing to those people. Okay, another comment here. Revelation 12 tells us there is a place prepared for the woman Israel in the wilderness from the serpent for a time and half a time. That is what my book is about, Michael or Joe. That was the verse that my whole called it eagle's wings, and then wings of an eagle, WE. And one friend said, yeah, it's got to be we because it's going to take we to get through this whole thing. So wings of an eagle. And then I thought, well, what if people what are people going to be praying to pray and someday 10 years down the road somebody's praying and they go like, what are they going to pray? How help me get out of Babylon? So I said, so that's why I called it How to Get Out of Babylon. So, but yeah, I could have come out of her, my people. Joe Fox was saying, but yeah, hot goobs. How to Get Out of Babylon? Hot goob. That's be my shirt and t-shirts and coffee cups. Anyway, so yeah, the woman in the wilderness. The wilderness has always been where Father sends his people for safety. Mountains, And Jesus said, if you see these things begin to happen, see the army surround Jerusalem, flee to the mountains. Okay. And we're about to be surrounded by armies, so we are surrounded by armies. What am I talking about? It's already happened. The shit's already hit the fan, people. It's splattered all over your face. If you can't smell it, I don't know what to say. It ain't going back through the oscillator. It ain't going back through the fan. It ain't going back in the bull's butt, It's splattered all over us. And the stench is there. We just don't recognize it right now. It's going to get worse, though, before it gets better. So, back to comments. Absolutely. The wilderness is where the woman is going to be fed up. Huh. Oh, Fawn. Oh, my God. You got to have him talk to me. Cherokee. Oh, man. I knew it already ahead of time, I thought. The Hebrews described the transition of old to new, which culminated in the destruction end of the kingdom of Judah. In Hebrews 6:8, we might have a strong consolation who have fled for refuge to lay hold upon the hope that is before us. Yeah, I've always thought that was a spiritual connotation. Yeah, we fled for refuge. But yeah, you could be, I don't know. The hope that's set before us, well, the hope set before us is Christ. It's not. He could have been, I don't know. Who knows? And who was the writer of Hebrews? Was it Paul or was it a woman? Well, one thing, is true is that we do need, we need to be in the wilderness. I mean, number one, you cannot be in the city. Rule number one of survival is get out of the cities. Rule number two of survival is get out of the cities. And rule number three of survival is get out of the cities. That's 3 rules of survival. There you go. 1, 2, 3. Rule number one, get out. Number two, get out. Number three, get out. And that's the focus of my whole book is trying to help people get on a shoestring budget, relocate out into the country, preferably to the OzArk Plateau, and and be able to grow food, build a house, and grow food. So we need to get. Here's what we need to do: to start building homes. Just start building homes. You can recycle stuff. There's thousands of videos online about building a home from recycled material. So dig a hole, build an underground home, make it as nice as you can, and learn from it and build another one. Build a cob house, build a court. I don't care. Build any kind of house, but build a house. Which I do too. I mean, I'm getting fat. He's getting skinny. He's emaciated. I'm overweight now. I've always has been for years, but I was splitting wood and getting in real pretty good shape before my stroke, and then the stroke knocked me down, and then the last winter, and I just barely survived winter because of the cold, and the sick. Some idiot made me sick. Sat there talking to me for an hour, and this, oh, I gotta go. I'm really sick. Well, thanks for telling me. I got sick, and that about killed me. I thought I was gonna die. So it was very hard. I don't want to get sick this winter. I hope I don't. So it's the reason why I gotta wrap this up here pretty quick because I'm getting chilly. My feet are cold. So yeah, we need to work in community. Community needs to be protected. So if your husband wants to be lone wolf, that's cool. But the whole Cherokee thing is that's the other question there. Schneider, that's his name. That sounds like it's German. Is there any Irish blood or Scottish blood there? Your husband mixed with the Cherokee? Big question there. Huge question for me. Because the Cherokee people throughout the centuries you meet people who are Cherokee, Irish Cherokee, Scotch Cherokee, Cherokee Scott. Where they got more Cherokee blood than Scott, whatever. But I would not be alive if it weren't for several people of that lineage. So, and I have a very, very, very interesting recap. I started in a little bit of it last night, the last time I talked, talking about Calcol and Dardan, the lineage of Judah, the Scepter's tribe, and the Cherokee people come into play with that. So, as to where they just, I'll say this. This is just a hint. Maybe someday I'll deal with this, especially if Fawn is interested in it, if her husband's interested in it. But I have a very interesting, very fascinating, and very powerful, but very personal, what we say, idea, theory as to where the Cherokee people came from. Okay. I'll just give a few hints. They're very loyal. They'll stand by you to the death. The Cherokee Nation. If you've never read the Declaration of War upon the northern aggressors by the Cherokee Nation, you should read that. It's one of the most fascinating and most purely Christian documents you'll ever read in your life. It said we would rather remain at peace. This is how Israel would always pursue peace, always try to maintain peace. But if they went to war, they did it hard as they went to war. So, but the Cherokee people wrote a declaration of war, said against the northern aggressors that we would like to remain at peace, but we cannot remain at peace while our southern Christian brethren are being attacked. We must side with and fight beside our Christian brethren of the South. So basically, the South was in danger of becoming a free civilization, of self-sustaining, economically stable civilization, and Rome, with its one world mentality, could never let that happen. So they fomented war upon them. And the Declaration says that the northern aggressors, people that they have sided with, and they most often side with the Cherokee, with the Scots and Irish. So that would be my next question, Don, would be: is your husband Scotch or Irish in any way? Who for refuge to Jesus has fled. That kind of reminded me of the hymn there, the fled for refuge. There's a new one, Jack Del Valle. Babylon is of the Strong's root, Babel, which is confused. Yep, definitely. David Solomon quite often keeps asking, is Jesus God? I don't know if anybody wants to address that or not, but it sounds like you want to start a fight. If you want to start a fight, go somewhere else. Figured I'd pray about it, brother. Just pray. Babylon, yeah, definitely confusion. It's going to be interesting. I don't, okay, I said go back to the beginning. Well, it's funny that I brought, the wilderness. Yes, that's what my whole vision was to see people come out of the system and be able to. Now, my contention has been for years this. I've known a lot of people who I'm a patriot. I don't have a social security number. I can't get a job. Can you loan me $20? You know, I don't have a birth certificate. I don't have a social security number. Can you take me to go shopping? And it's a drain on people that we're the ones that ferried these people around all the time for years. I mean, for years, this one guy we'd take him around. You had to go pick him up. You him home. That's like 2 hours driving time. It's ridiculous. Anyway, you know, my contention has been this: we need to be able to be to a point where enough people, a large enough group of people, can say, "Hey, we're okay. We don't need your help. We don't need your food. We don't need your medicine. We don't need your housing. We don't need anything." And that's going to be hard because a lot of us are, we're on Social Security and different things. If that's gone, well, I start digging the hole. Like I said, dig a grave, and then start digging a house. Dig the whole graveyard hole full, so nobody else has to do the work. Number one, start digging for food. Then start digging to build a house, and just get real simple. Get brutally simple. Deal with the weather, deal with the ticks and triggers, deal with the snakes, deal with the cold, deal with the heat. And I've been trying to get used to that, but cold. I've always kind of enjoyed cold weather a lot more than hot weather, but I would say cold weather is probably more deadly right now. If my body core gets cold, I'm gone. I'm done. That's it. It's all over. Game over. Game over. Everybody in the pool. Miserable. And it can be deadly too, obviously. Heat stroke. In fact, I had heat stroke once. So they're both heat and cold are hard to deal with. But if you're in an underground home, you don't have to worry about the heat and you don't have to worry about the cold. Dig in deep enough that you have a 50-degree interior temperature. You don't need to heat it. Really don't need to heat it at all, because if it's 50, I got somewhere my laser gun here. I should have it right handy where I can put my hand on it. Normally I do. Where is it? I don't feel it. I think I can touch it and feel it, because I love these things. There's the camera up there. 64. 40 degrees is livable, and I know that because I've lived in 40 degrees. I lived in a teepee for a while, a single wall, single pole teepee, nylon wall teepee. I'd ping this on, but by and large, it was kind of 40 degrees inside most of the time. And that's livable. It is survivable. If you can dress up, put some shoes on, slippers on, like I said, just dress up for it. And I'd get into bed and I'd be fine. So, hi, David. Okay, so finally, yeah. I kind of want to get an idea where you're coming from on that. Um, I will assume, I will conjecture that your questions are coming from some sources from within the Hebrew Roots Movement, HRM, Hebrew Roots Movement, Messianic, I call Torah toters, sacred namers, Hebrew Roots Movement, HRM. And if that's the case, then you're gonna run into just barrage after barrage after barrage of information that will say no, Jesus is not God. Jesus means pig. Jesus means Zeus. Hey Zeus. Um, it means dog. It means this. It means that. And I will say this overall. You can study it and come to your own conclusions. But I have known of when I did those. Okay, I was helping my son do research for a book he wrote in defense of the New Testament. But it was about he was engaged to a girl who was a sacred name background. Torah observant type of person, and he was figuring out that he didn't want to believe that stuff, and we went through that whole thing of the hearing that stuff. Very, very. It's one of the most divisive things movements you'll ever run across. Nobody believes what the same other person believes. They're very contentious. They're very standoffish, very divisive, extremely divisive. But one thing I observed time after time after time after time is that they were reading material by Kabbalistic Jews. Kabbalah is a bad, like an occultic writings. Okay, Talmud. The Talmud is a horrifically satanic book. Don't. Jews are really good people, right? Well, they're not. They're not good people. They're evil people. They're very satanic. And just read the Talmud. It doesn't hurt a 3-year-old girl anymore to have sex with her than it does to poke her eye out. Doesn't hurt that bad. Have your eye poked out. Just very nasty stuff, disgusting stuff. And so anyway, the yeah, PTBs. Okay, so where's I going with that? A lot. I'll just say this. I'll scratch that. But a lot of people who get into that movement, next thing you know, they're questioning this, they're questioning that, and then they start questioning the New Testament. They start questioning Paul, then they start questioning the entire New Testament. The next thing you know, I kid you not, one man that I knew was going to be a church, Assembly of God pastor when he went into Bible college. He got into the Hebrew Roots movement, sacred name, started studying Torah. He's now part of a band called Atheists for Jesus. Very mocking, very, very, satirical. Talks about the red-haired, red-tailed Jesus or something like that. But Atheists for Jesus, actually Jesus, So for people who have shipwrecked their faith, and it's probably dozens, probably hundreds, maybe probably thousands by now across America, who got into the Hebrew movement and now are like pagans, atheists, whatever, Satanists, into witchcraft, whatever. I don't know, but Kabbalah. So, yeah, I would be very, very, very careful about that. So. Yeah, some good replies there to that question. Is Jesus God? Um, in the book of John, 1 John, 2 John, 3 John, look it up. It said that there are three that bear witness to the truth. But at one point it says, the witness, the spirit, what is it? Somebody can look that one up there. I'll try to find it real quick. Any spirit that confesses that Jesus has come in the flesh. That verse. Yeah, 1 John 4:2. Hereby know you the Spirit of God. Every spirit that confesseth that Jesus Christ is come in the flesh is of God. And every spirit that confesses not that Jesus Christ is come in the flesh is not of God. And that is the spirit of Antichrist. Okay, so I've heard it. I don't know if you could bear this out in the Greek, but every spirit that confesses that Jesus is in their living in their flesh, living in their life, is of God. Because anybody can say, "Yeah, Jesus came in the flesh." Maybe they can say that, but they won't. Has Jesus Christ come? That's of God. And every spirit that does not confess that is not of God. That spirit is Antichrist. So that's one. That's one very probably very good test. Ah, sorry. I got it precariously balanced on my tablet stand. And all right, live chat. Let's see what we got going on here. Yeah, the point about unity is a good point there. I think that was Michael who made that. If we needed to know more, he would have told us more. Oh, Joe Black said, Yeshua told us he did not come to bring unity but division. Oh, wait a minute here. Okay, so you're saying he didn't come to bring peace on the earth but a sword? In a sense, yeah. In another sense, though, we're supposed to be divided. If we're not supposed to be divided, we're supposed to be one. You know, by this shall all men know that you're my disciples, that everybody believes the same thing. Everybody kowtows to the same doctrine. Everybody bows down to the same church head. That's not what he said, you know. Everybody believes the same doctrine or getting fights about it all the time. He said that by this shall all men know that you're my disciples, that you have love one for another. And that's the overpowering thing, is that because love is, to me, is the most powerful force on earth, because we're up against massive evil. I mean, horrendous evil that would actually just blow our minds up if we understood or knew all the things that they're doing. I'll just give one example. I'm not even going to go into it in any detail at all, but there are men who have been lifelong military and lifelong law enforcement people who have seen the most horrific things that people can possibly do to people, you know, murder scenes and gross things. And they one viewing of what Huma Abedin and Hillary Clinton did to a little girl, bent their minds so badly that it about broke their minds. And I've just read about it described. I mean, I can't imagine, but it made them unable to function without medical and, you know, counseling and psychiatric help, or, you know, spiritual help. They couldn't even function anymore. Their minds were so twisted and bent and destroyed by what they saw and heard. So there's things that people are planning, and not just planning to do, but are doing. Every day in this world, we're working on so much evil, so much massive evil, so much massive amounts of money and wealth behind it with the evil that's going on. There's only one thing that's going to win, and that's love. I mean, in the book of Revelation, it says that they love not their lives even unto death. That's how we're going to win. And we need to love each other and love the Lord and love our Savior more than anything else, or we ain't going to make it. You know, nobody's going to make it. Except those days were shortened, no flesh would be saved. Those days are going to have to be shortened, or nobody's going to make it. That's the amount of evil we're up against. That Jesus said he's going to have to shorten the days. So, all right. David, I would just say really seriously pray about it, but don't be reading a whole bunch of crap. Pray about it. Let him give you an answer. And don't be reading a lot of Jewish sources. One thing I noticed repeatedly in these great leaders of the Sacred Name movement, the Hebrew Roots movement, they had all these books written by satanic people in their libraries. Why? Atheists and ungodly people. Why do they have those in their library? I don't understand that. Very weird. No reason for it. Bad company corrupts good morals, God has always been toward men for their deeds, not simply their teachings, yeah. Okay, Fawn Schneider, I'm looking forward to this one. Okay, so I'm a bit freaked out. My husband took his mother's last name at birth. She was 15. Wait a minute here. His mother was 15. Wow. So she took his mother's last name, not his father's, I guess. I looked up the origins of my husband's father, last name Cummins. It is Ireland and Scotland. Hallelujah. Cool. Oh, lady, you and me got some talking to do. No, it just couldn't do it justice. Yeah, like I said, I had a personal idea from studying the whole migrations of the Celtic people, the Israel people, as to where they came from. And then somehow or another, the thought was put into my head of a certain person in the Bible. And I'll say it was a woman. And that was where the Cherokee people came from. So many years later, I'm just going to ruin it here, but many years later, I prayed for an answer, and I got 2 answers in one prayer. And it was the only time in my life I prayed a really vehement prayer. I said, God, if I was at a gun show in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I said, if I want proof of this tomorrow, and it didn't have to do with this, but Tulsa being where it's at, there's a whole lot of, that's where the nations are, Oklahoma, the Indian nations. And there's a table there with not a table, a booth with probably 10 tables of books on Indians. And I walked up and I looked around and went, hey, maybe they got an answer to my Cherokee question. I said, hey, do you have any books on Cherokees? And the guy showed me this one called Out of the Flame. Okay. The original title is called The 23 Arguments. And I'll spoil. I'm not spoiling it because I'm not going to tell you my content, my theory, my personal theory that I believe was given to me from the Lord. But I looked at the book. I got the book and I brought it home and I read it. And it was like the original title was The 23 Arguments. 23 Arguments. And the 23 arguments were the 23 similarities between the Cherokee Nation and the people of Israel, the Hebrew people of ancient Israel. The way they set up camp, the way they did sanitation, the way they, waged war. They would always offer peace, and then they would wage war. And this and this and this and this and this and this and this. And it was 23 different similarities. Their name for deity, Yehovah. I remember that. Their name for deity was very similar to Jehovah, Yahweh, Yehovah. A lot of, parallels between Cherokee and the Hebrew people. So I'm giving that away. Okay, that much I've given away. That I have come to believe that they were from Palestine, and the reason that they traveled and intermarried throughout centuries. I mean, you constantly will run across people who are Irish Cherokee, Scotch Cherokee, or Cherokee Scotch, where there's more Scotch blood than Cherokee blood than Scotch, or vice versa. Cherokee Irish. I'd still be dead. I never would have made it here. But one day in Denver, it was my last move out of Denver. We did 4 U-Haul loads out of Denver to get some of my stuff out here. And I had done 2 loads. Okay. Loaded, drove, unloaded, drove back to Denver, loaded, and I was on that second load. I wasn't going to make it. I was bouncing off the wall. I had been up. By the time I got back home, I was back to Kansas. I had been up, loading, driving, unloading, driving, loading, driving for 52 hours straight. No sleep. No sleep. 52 hours. I was at the ragged edge of death. Well, when I was loading, I realized I wasn't going to make it by myself, so I called my wife and I said, "Hey, here's a few names of guys on the dock that I know and that I'd worked in freight handling, you know. So I needed help. I said, I need help. If you can't find help, I'm probably not going to make it." So a guy pulls on a beautiful truck, beautiful Chevy truck, black windows, window rolls down. This guy has beautiful long black hair, just black hair. Didn't recognize it for nobody because his hair was all, he's all really look very, very well kept. And when you work on a dock, nobody cares what you look like. And I didn't know he had long hair or whatever, but he had really long hair, like shoulder length hair, beautifully oiled and everything, just very clean. And he looks at me and he says, and as I walk up to him, I recognize him, Mike Finn. And he says, there's not too many people that I'll get out of bed for at 6:30 on a Sunday morning, but Jerry Diamond is one of them. So I was like, oh my God, he saved my life. They're loyalty. So yeah, we can talk about this sometime. Maybe I give most of it away, 3/4 of it. You can figure the rest out yourself. Pray about it, but yeah, it's really fascinating, Fawn. Very fascinating. Coming. Irish and Scotch. Serious. Hey, no, Cummins is a diesel. That's so cool. By our deeds, and those who are shepherds are held responsible for their misguidance. Yep, absolutely. Joe Black, Denver? You from Denver, dude? Oh my God. Hallelujah. Yeah. Don't tell me you're Mike Finn. That would be awesome. Oh my God. Saw a single shot bucks. I remember that, and I didn't buy it because I didn't have the money. I would have bought it because they could use it for lunch and mortars. Molotov cocktails. That's what they did in Cuba, fighting against some. What do you call it? The whatever Cuban overlords. Che Guevara. That's what they used. I'm in New Mexico now. Oh, okay. Well, migrate to out here to the Ozarks if you want someday. Yeah, New Mexico. I don't know. It's Volcano City. Okay, folks. I'm about tired, and it is. What time is it? Been an hour plus, or 20. I'm about talked out, folks. So I'm going to say goodnight. Anybody has any questions, holler, ask them. Maybe we can talk about something else another time. I am, haha. I guess I said, I don't know. Are you from Denver? You said, yeah, haha. Yeah, I don't miss Colorado at all. With their Denver, the sanctuary city, and the first openly something or other governor. Fawn, you got me. That's so cool. I'm so thrilled. My contention and my this very well. The book that I mentioned, but is James Adair, Adair, called Out of the Flame. I don't know if you can still get it online or not, or you can order it. Should be able to, and it should be in print somewhere. Like University of Oklahoma punches like hundreds and hundreds of Indian titles. That's probably either published by the University of Oklahoma or somewhere in Oklahoma. Should be able to find a copy of it. I've ordered 3 copies here and there over the years, and I don't know if there's an online version of it that might be. Now, the same man wrote another book about 1890, no, 1795. Did I say 1795? Yeah. He wrote a book about the Indian nations, and that's in general, you know, covers a lot of different. It was a big, thick book. Out of the Flame was only about maybe 200 pages, but Out of the Flame was specifically about the Cherokee Nation and the similarities between them, the Cherokee people, and their customs and things and beliefs, and the biblical Old Testament Hebrew people. So that was the contention of the book, that they were from Palestine. So I'm not going to say any more now. I'm not going to say any more now. I'm not going to say any more. You have to pull it out of me with a. Okay, later, some other time. Maybe I'll do one of my talks on it. Yeah, I was wondering what made me say anything about Cherokee, you know, because she mentioned her husband was a lone wolf. And I said, well, he might be a lone wolf, but if he's a lone wolf, he very likely could be Scotch Irish, and that would mean possibly Cherokee too. And then she said he's Cherokee, and I'm like, oh my god! So, ding, 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 ding! I scored on 1, 2, 3. Cool, very exciting. I'll drop this other shoe later, some other time. Okay. I'm tired. I'm about out of here. Good night. Wow. I don't know if you can hear that. Coyotes sound pretty close. That story fits my husband's personality to a T. Okay. I don't know what story that is, but red-headed Maori. Oh yeah, that makes sense. Gadiana says the red-headed Maori ALS claim roots in ancient Israel. That would make redhead would make very much sense. Yeah, red hair Irish. Yeah, the Irish they sail all over the world, so they spread their blood everywhere. Their genes, their lineage. Would that be surprising? Tribe of Dan. All right. Well, good night, everybody. Thank you. It's a really good time. Really enjoyable. Hopefully, fun. I can touch base, or maybe we'll do like I said. I can talk the whole thing through more carefully and more thoroughly some other time. Maybe when your husband's on, or we can talk on the phone sometime, or communicate by some other means too, email and stuff with more information. So anyway, thank you. I'm gonna call it good, and been kind of very enjoyable, and kind of a little community of sorts, you know. And I would ask everybody that listens to this and that is listening live, you know, be praying about this whole call right before I was on here. It delayed me for a while from getting on because a friend called and said she'd quit her job and she did telemarketing and quit. Could not see putting hundreds of thousands of dollars in this guy's pocket. That's just wasting it, you know. There's no concept of what to do with it. And she really has a burden for homeless people, and so do I. That's been my saga for 20 years, trying to figure out how to take care of homeless people. After 15 years of that, I guess I wasn't doing a good enough job because. All right, well, good night. Hallelujah. Thank you. Good night, Joe Black. Been a good chat. Gaddy Anton, good night. Michael Allen, good night. Ray Shaw, good night. Not alone Indian heads cross the Bering Strait landmass. Get to the northeastern landmass. Northeastern landmass, what does that mean? By way of Greenland, Ireland, British Isles, yeah, probably. Let there be light. Hey, who the heck are you? Let there be light. See, I can't just click on that and go to your channel. That's one thing that's kind of frustrating about this. and I may not be able to find your channel on YouTube. Those that cross the Bering Strait put a notch on the arrowhead at the bottom to fit the arrow shaft snugly. Oh. Yeah, boy, Greenland, yeah. Yeah, I figured that. Yeah, I don't know if you guys know that Thomas Jefferson, when he sent out Lewis and Clark, he told them to watch out for white Indians that spoke Welsh and Hebrew. They found the Mandan Indians in the northern plains of North Dakota, and started trying to figure out their language. Now, these guys are speaking Welsh and Hebrew. So the chief's name was Big White because he was 6'5", 300 pounds. Yeah, blonde hair, blue eyed. Yep. Alrighty, well, I'm going to say goodbye. Good night. God bless everybody. Be blessed and be multiplied. All right. Good night.